we have our values, we have the way we look at things, we have the way we feel about things. And when something comes along that might possibly shift that, we get a little nervous. Hey, Soul Warriors, we want to welcome you to our podcast. Soul Intentions is here to drop the wisdom, tools, and real life experiences that helped us transform our lives so that we can shine without the struggle. We want to share everything we have learned so that you can do the same.
Welcome, Soul Warriors, to episode 12 of Evolve or Repeat, Your Choice. Today we are speaking about shifting perspectives, all about unlocking new dimensions of reality.
Yes.
So, what are perspectives? Yeah. It's just your point of view.
Yeah.
It's the place that you hardline in on how you feel about something or think about something.
Mm-hmm.
So, where do these come from, and why do we hold so tight to them? We think that our identity, you might not think here, but back here you think that your identity is what your perspective is, your beliefs are. So this is where we start to bump up against other people a lot, and we bump up against ourselves.
Right. We don't like change. That's the bottom line. We have our values, we have the way we look at things, we have the way we feel about things. And when something comes along that might possibly shift that, we get a little nervous. But it's a good thing, though, because you want to change perspective, especially if it's something that is like an old belief, an old understanding, an old habit. And if you can find a way to be able to shift that, be it because someone says something or you experience something, then you want to go ahead and do that, because that's another level of growth.
Exactly. And we all have run into things where we're bumping up against somebody else, or we're starting to create separation because we have different points of view.
Mm-hmm.
So can you look at something or look at somebody's point of view and be open to it and not have it be a threat to your point of view?
Right.
Because that's the beauty of perspective, is we all have a slightly different one. We all have different color glasses that we put on every single day that have been built by our experiences, our traumas, our parents, everything that we've experienced. And so everybody, you can have like two siblings that grow up in the same house that have radically different views.
Absolutely.
And why is that? Because we're each individuals. Yeah. So that's the special thing about perspective, is you don't want to fall into that herd mentality where you're thinking like all your friends are thinking like everybody else. You need to think the way that is uniquely you, that works with your core values, the core of who you are.
Right, for sure. I mean, being able to shift that perspective is a sign of growth, like I've said before. And when you're able to get to that place of shifting yourself, shifting your feeling, shifting all the things that you need to shift, you're really opening up the doors to a lot of different things that you possibly might not have experienced if you've been so close and tight to this is what I believe in, this is what it is to me, because we have a really bad habit of consistently sticking to the things that really don't serve us. I mean, that's kind of the thing. I mean, one example. For most of my life, I have always said blood is thicker than water. That's been my belief. That's been my self-talk, my mantra, my perspective on what family is.
And I argued that vehemently.
Yes, for sure. And with good... And it was a good thing that you did that, because it made me shift and look at things differently. I mean, blood's thicker than water to me. And when I got to the place where I was creating my own family with you, my kids, and all that stuff, I realized, hey, these people are not blood. They're consistently part of my life, but they're not blood. But they sure as hell felt like family to me.
Yeah. Chosen friends are family.
Yeah.
150%.
And that was a perspective that really shifted for me down the line. And I struggled with it for so long. It's just like, I had this, blood's thicker than water, and my sisters, my mom, and all this thing, and that's my family.
And I wasn't trying to swing her when I said I vehemently argued about it. It wasn't why I was trying to swing her over to my side that, you know, that's the opposite, or whatever my view is. It was just trying to expand her view, because I was watching her say no to situations and experiences with people because certain family members might have needed something
Right.
over and over again, with no reciprocation to her, with no benefit for her, that was dragging her down and draining her energy a lot of times. And then she was missing out on all these other things.
Right.
So
And
it
I
was-
didn't even
yeah.
I didn't even realize that was the case, that I was missing out on something, or an experience, because I was so focused on, it's my family. I have to be there. I have to, support them and all that stuff. It didn't matter if they weren't supporting me or anything like that. It was more about me being there for them. And I really truly needed to shift that perspective, and in building my own family and doing what I wanted to do, really put me in a place of being open and completely satisfied with the life that I've built.
Right.
Which
It
is
wasn't her
awesome.
shifting from like, I'm going to ignore my family now and just
Right.
put all my focus over here. It's expanding your focus. It's
Right.
not shifting it.
Right.
So when we get into our blood is thicker than water, we're like looking at a tiny microscope at a tiny little atom of the whole universe. This is why we're talking about it unlocking new dimensions of reality for you. Because when you start expanding that world view, that universal view, it's like looking through the Hubble telescope and being able to see everything, see all the galaxies and everything, instead of being just micro focused on your little slice of things.
Right. I mean, my girls, like, I didn't birth them, but they're my girls. They're my daughters. I mean, everything about our relationship is, parent child, and like that perspective of blood's thicker than water just didn't serve there anymore, because I didn't have them personally, but they sure as heck are my daughters. And I
Exactly.
love them and feel for them like if I had them myself.
And that
So-
was a beautiful example for me to use when I was,
Yeah.
when I first met her and I looked at like her life setup, that, this is an example. You can't call these people your kids if you're
Yeah.
not going to treat them like that.
Right.
So
Right.
it's just showing up for who you love, basically, instead of
Right.
we get stuck in these old sayings all the time. I was at a hairdresser, my hairstylist, a couple days ago, and I was waiting to go in, and there's a table like a little bigger than this that everybody sits around, kind of to create a sense of community, but while you wait. And this mom and grandma and the daughter and this little boy, maybe kindergarten, first grade, they all came in and they sat around the table with me. So I was just, listening and being present like I like to do and observing. And this little boy pulls out his coloring book and he goes through the whole Crayola box and finds the red and the black. And he starts coloring and he's all happy. And then he's like, done. Puts his crayons down, tries to flip to a different page. And the grandma's immediately like, you didn't color all the blank space, so it's not done. And he's like, yeah, it is done. It's exactly how I want it to be. It's perfect. So now I need to find something new. And then the mother chimes in and says something. And then the little 8-year-old daughter chimes in. She goes, you're just being wasteful. And it was all these like little old sayings, like, you got to finish what you started, I think is what the mom said. And you're being wasteful. And the little boy's just like being bombarded with these three
Yeah.
females. And you could tell the little girl was just parroting what she'd heard mom
Right.
and grandma say. And you just saw him like shrinking a little bit and shrinking a little bit, like, no. And he was trying to stand up for himself, but he's the littlest of the bunch, and so eventually he's like, fine, I'm not going to color. So now the kid's not being creative, because fast forward to, I'm in the chair and he's in the chair next to me, and the hairstylist is asking him questions, and he brings up that he loves Spider-Man, hence the red and the black that he's putting in the book, because that to him is superpower colors, and that means that you're strong and you can stand up for yourself and you can protect other people just like he wants to do to his family. Now, from the lobby, you hear, I don't remember what his name was, but I'm going to call him Josh. Josh, stop messing around. And then the next voice, Josh, be nice. And then the little girl, Josh is never nice. Josh always acts up. And Josh is like in his chair at this point, and he was just like shut down the entire rest of the time. And I'm like, oh my God, like he wasn't not being nice. He was explaining his love of Spider-Man. Like, so all these people were putting upon all these perspectives of how you should act, and it's rude to do this, or it's like, and they weren't even over there. They sent this little kid in all by himself.
Yeah.
It was crazy watching all the perspectives, and he was attempting his best to show everybody his perspective and why he was doing what he was doing. Fabulous little communicator, honestly, but they all thought he was difficult. All the hairstylists thought he was hilarious
Right.
with snappy comebacks to people. But
Right.
yeah, it was just like, okay, this is what happens to us as kids.
Right.
You know, maybe not with your parents or your sibling, but with,
Yeah.
you know, teachers, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of information that we're bombarded with as children, and then as adults, we need to sift through all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that a lot of people don't mind their words and don't mind what they're imposing on their children.
Right.
And it's I don't want to sound like I'm telling people how to parent.
Exactly.
But be aware. Be aware how you're speaking to your child. Are you
How you're speaking to everyone.
to everyone, and are you imposing your own beliefs on them, or are you supporting and acknowledging and being curious as to what they might be thinking, what they might be feeling, what their perspective is? You know, another person's perspective on what you just said is wonderful because it challenges it. You know, it gives you the opportunity to say, oh, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. I wonder why I've always thought of it this way. You know,
Or it just adds.
or just exactly,
your-
or just adds. And, you know, I think there's a fine line that when when you're dealing with perspective, that you're also taking shit personally.
Yes.
You know, the when people are being constructive in their criticism or in their perspective or in their words, please just again get curious, because that's an opportunity to shift things.
It doesn't have to be necessarily it's an attack on you. It's just
No.
it's a conversation
Right.
that you can talk and go deeper
We're too busy taking shit personally
all the time.
that we miss the opportunity to grow.
And if you have a problem with that, like you always feel everything's about you, it's definitely not. But read the Four Agreements. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
that's
Four
a good
Agreements
book.
is an amazing book that helps you go into not taking things personally.
Yeah.
And also be super present, because the mother never looked up from her phone. The little girl never looked up from her phone. The grandmother was like looking around at everybody else's business, and they're just throwing out these comments at poor little Josh.
Yeah.
And his light is dimming and dimming. And I'm hoping that Josh seemed feisty enough that hopefully Josh makes it, but he's still really little, so he's got at least another decade of this whatever dynamic that's going on.
Yeah. So imagine what he might grow up to be.
Yeah.
You know,
And all the
if
stylists
you're
were just-
constantly doing this to something or someone,
Yeah.
you know, it really does dim the light, and that is not something you want to do. You want to be able to be supportive and acknowledge people's individuality and frame of thought. So just, you know, be mindful of that, because perspective doesn't have to be a personal attack. It is simply something for you to grow from.
Exactly.
So
And just so you know, you are always wrong.
always.
Always wrong. Because you only know what you know. There's no way you can know everybody else's experiences, everybody else's feelings. There's no way you can know all the information in the world. There's no way you've experienced all of the things in the world.
Right.
So if you go into it that you're wrong, instead of like, I'm right and everyone else is wrong and I need to fight for what I believe in,
Yeah.
there can be some sort of connection and understanding that can actually occur. And that's where unity comes in too.
Right.
So perspective, I think we've been taught a lot by media right now. Like all the news and the way algorithms work on social media
Yeah.
to see like what fits in with our beliefs, and then they sprinkle in what doesn't, and everybody rails against that and becomes their armchair warrior, where they're sniping at each other or talking about how they're stupid because of their perspective and that their perspective is superior.
Right.
Like if you do that, like, don't the time and the energy to put out negative stuff to push back on somebody else, it's not going to change their perspective. They're not going to be like, oh my God, that person attacking me online is absolutely correct. I am stupid. Wow, I didn't know. Thank you, user 5623, for letting me know that. Like, that's it's not going to happen. So where do
Yeah.
you want to focus your energy? How do you want to expand your perspective?
I mean, another example that I have, not to get into politics, but my perspective in politics totally shifted last election. Not this one, the one before that. And I was super open to listen to the different points of views. My connections with several people, they are far right, I was far left, and somewhere in the middle we ended up having a conversation about a lot of different things. And my perspective on what I thought I was, as far as being a Democrat, versus what my friends were talking about being Republicans. And in the middle, I realized that we were all going towards the same goal.
Yeah, we all have common core values.
Exactly. And it wasn't about being right or wrong or better or worse, but more about what our values were being met in the middle of all that.
Right.
And it was I think life-changing for me, because at this point in my life it's just like, well, I don't know about government anymore. I've kind of questioned that at this point. And I was able to sit with the opposition very safely and respectfully. And that's the part about, being open to a perspective, because how they thought about Democrats versus the way Democrats think about them was like out here.
Because it's all propaganda that we've all
Exactly.
been fed on, like, it's us against them, and
Yeah.
they're the dangerous ones, not us. And so
Right.
you have to fight against them and push back on them. And how well is that working?
Yeah.
I was big into activism for a short period of
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
And I was always kind of more in the middle, went way far one way and came back to the middle, and now I'm like, I'm not participating in any of that anymore.
Right.
Because it's just this weaponized anger, fighting, pushing. Like, what those words, do those feel nice to you? Do those feel it's the only way to get things done and that's how politics works?
Yeah.
I mean, I hear things like that and I'm like, in the 50 years I've been alive, how much has that worked? I want to give you a quick message before we get back to this episode. Unlock the secrets of your soul for free with Soul Notes. Say goodbye to feeling stuck and hello to the validation of your alignment. These weekly prompts are filled with reminders, gentle nudges, and sometimes a kick in the ass, all with love from your soul. Don't just take our word for it. Try Soul Notes for yourself and see the difference it can make in your life. Trust us, your soul and you will thank you. Just go to soulnote.org. That's SOULNOTE.org. Now back to our podcast. It hasn't. How much is government working for us? My personal opinion, it's not.
Nope.
So why keep participating in an institution? Well, because if you don't vote, your vote doesn't count. Like all the things that we have been programmed to think and say with the stickers and the, and if you're there, cool. You want to go vote?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's your perspective. That's your right. It's my right to vote or not to vote. It's just opening and being okay. Because I saw this thing on Instagram yesterday. This guy drew 2 circles. And he's like, this is my circle, and this is where I'm really present and I live. This is your circle. What are you doing over here in my circle? Please, thank you for stopping by, but move back to your own circle, and then we can both be present with each other.
Yeah.
Like, this is my business, this is your business. Don't be up in my business. Don't be up in my perspective. You want to have a discussion about both of our perspectives.
Yeah.
Awesome. A respectful, nice discussion. You can agree to disagree.
Listen, perspective is not about right or wrong, or
Exactly.
what I'm saying to you is law. It's right. It's this. It might be right and law for you. Doesn't mean that it's going to be for you.
Exactly.
So when we step back from it being personal or feeling like I need to be right and you need to shift yours, we might get someplace a little bit quicker, because perspective is just another outline or another space to be able to shift your thoughts, your mind, your physical being. It just gives you that opportunity, but you have to be open to it. When somebody tells you, oh, I thought this, or maybe this is better. Okay, show me how. Don't what you're trying to say that I'm stupid. Don't get that kind of energy.
Yeah.
And I know that it's hard because again we're very very quick to take things personally, but when somebody is genuinely telling you something, maybe you should do it this way, or maybe you should think about this, or maybe whatever it is.
Why? Be curious.
Exactly. Be curious. Ask why, or show me.
Thank you for letting me know that. And I'll put that in my tool of tricks, and I'm gonna, it might be wrong, it might not work, but I'm gonna try what I was gonna try, and then I'll consider yours and everybody else's perspectives that that shared them with me. That's
like with
cool.
all things, take what resonates and discern the rest.
Exactly.
You should. That's a practice that should be lifelong. Because it really saves you a lot of heartache. Because you don't have to get into an argument with someone because you want to feel right.
Right.
That's the beauty about us being so individual. We have to be able to express ourselves in different ways and it be okay. Exactly. Just like that little boy. I mean, he was trying really hard to express himself and his thoughts, what he felt was good to him, and he was being bombarded with these perspectives that the adults were putting on him.
And all the stylists were laughing, and I was laughing too, because the whole thing was just kind of so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But then I looked over and I saw his face, like, great, they're yelling from the other half of the thing, disturbing the entire spa, and now all these people are laughing at me. So I leaned over and I'm like, you know what? You keep being just like Spider-Man, because that's you.
Yeah.
You're just like him. Go. It was just trying to encourage him, and he gave me this like kind of like, are you for real?
Exactly.
And then I got this little half smirk and a little thumbs up, and I was like, okay, good.
But the fact that right there made him feel like, are you for real?
Yeah, like somebody.
That should not be happening.
Right.
Let the imagination of this person flourish, build on it.
Like, who was he hurting? Exactly. Coloring in red and black.
Who the hell cares that he didn't finish the frickin' coloring book?
And look at artists in museums. I mean, some of them are swirls and squiggles and and it's art. So who's saying that, his picture was incomplete or wrong or wasteful?
Yeah.
When is art wasteful? Like, none of it made any sense.
Honestly, there are times when I experience things and I just literally just want to say, calm the fuck down.
Yep.
Really, we take shit too seriously. We take things too personally when someone is just simply expressing something different from you. That's all it is.
And even if they're not being respectful, be the bigger person, there's a saying. But stay in your values.
Yeah.
Don't go to their level, and don't, you don't have to argue. And if they still
Exactly.
want to, then just leave. Like, just
Yeah.
end the conversation and say, you know what, I don't think that we're being able to connect or communicate well, so let's,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call it and
Best phrase on the
wish
planet.
you well.
Let's agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Period. End.
And they probably won't, but and you
Yeah.
said something earlier too, because we've been talking a lot about mentally and subconsciously and consciously what's coming out of our mouths. But there's a way to perspective shift physically. An example of this is, there's a couple in my head. I'll pick one. The other day, I'm driving to a pet sitting client. There's a big giant truck in front of me that I come up behind, and we're going, and all of a sudden he's like slamming on his brakes. And then he's speeding up again, and then he's slamming on his brakes, and and it's driving me absolutely nuts. Like, I'm staying way back, but still going from 50 down to 20 is like, it was just, so after a while I was like, oh my God, like, just turn, or like, and I was frustrated and yelling at him in my car, and all this energy's coming out of me because it had just built up. And then we come around a curve, and there's this little tiny car with the big student driver sticker on the back.
Aw.
And I'm like, oh. So this man is probably as frustrated as I am, and I'm unloading all my energy onto him, and it's not even him that's doing it, and it's this poor person attempting to learn. Maybe he wasn't feeling, he was either feeling the same way I was, or maybe he was like, there's a student driver in front of me. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So perspective, and it took that like shift in location of a turn in the road for me to see that. Or a quarterback, like when you're watching a football game, and you're yelling at the quarterback, like, throw it to number 23, because you have 60 camera angles that you can see.
Right.
And 23 might be from his perspective behind some linebacker, and he can't see them. And you're like, freaking Jones didn't do X, Y, and Z, because
Right.
it's all about perspective. So attempt to shift your body, change your location, or simply understand that, again, you never have the full picture. Perspective is all relative to
Yeah.
where you are mentally, physically, emotionally,
Yep.
and spiritually.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, something as simple as just physically stepping back. I did that the other day. I was having a day. And I literally just, with my whole body, I just stepped back. Took a breath, and then proceeded with whatever was going on. But I mean, just that thing, that physical thing, shifted my entire being, which then shifted my perspective of the situation, and then again left me open to receive whatever was going to be unfolding at that particular moment. So, and that's the thing. When you're aware of yourself, you're able to put yourself through those steps. We're constantly like moving around and doing things and doing this, not being aware of what the fuck we're doing or saying. I mean, to me, this is my biggest pet peeve. To when I say something without thinking and regretting it. I need to be able to be respectful of when I'm saying something, and when I'm not, because I'm rushing through things, it pisses me off. Because now I'm not being
Integritous.
exactly. It bumps against one of my values. So it's like, really, if you literally need to just step back to be able to receive whatever the difference in perspective, you want to do that.
That's a perfect physical tool.
Yeah.
Here's a little mental tool that I use. It's called the maybe game. Games are supposed to be fun. Some people don't like games, but
Right.
so as soon as I'm like, okay, I'm going to play the maybe game. Like, I should have done this while I was driving. Maybe the person in front of me, even though it wasn't even him, maybe the person in front of me has a wedding cake in the back of that big old truck that's super tall, and they're trying to deliver it to the venue. Maybe because once my brother had dislocated his shoulder, and I was trying to get him to the hospital because the ambulance was like, oh, it's going to be a half an hour before we get there. He was in an accident, and every single bump like caused him excruciating pain. So I was driving extra slow, extra careful. If I saw a bump coming up, I'm slowing down. If I saw a pothole, I'm swerving. Like, so maybe they have an injured person in their car. You don't know.
Right.
So as soon as I'm like, all right, I'm going to play the maybe game because I'm starting to get frustrated, or I'm starting to get mad at this person, or I'm starting to argue with this person, hopefully game triggers something fun for you. But also playing that maybe game, if you assume the kindest, most gracious thing that you could possibly like think of that might be going on for this person. And that's another thing. You don't know what's going on for people, period.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody that's arguing with you about something, just their partner just left them suddenly
Right.
with no explanation. So they're trying to grab on to some perspective, some sense of themselves as hard as they can right now. It really has nothing to do with you.
Right.
Or somebody passed away and they're just really hard-lined into that thing because that's keeping them grounded in the moment.
Right.
We have, again, it's all perspective. You don't know what's going on with somebody else. So give them
No.
the benefit of the doubt. And the more you lean out of judgment and you lean into compassion and empathy, I mean, that muscle will grow. The more
Yeah.
you say, okay, I can expand my perspective. I can expand my perspective. And then the easier and easier your life gets.
Absolutely. I mean, and it comes down to the tips that we have, and one of the number one thing for a tip is gratitude. Sit in fucking gratitude like it was your best friend, because it will help you shift things. You know, gratitude is I've learned through the years that sitting in gratitude and being grateful about my present moment has been life changing for me. And in situations where I practice that, again, shifts it for me as well. So that's one. The second one is get out of your head. We did a part about that.
We did.
You know, just simply get out of your head. Because the bottom line is when you're thinking that this person is being an asshole by telling you something different, you're taking it personally. So you're in your head and you're not minding your words.
Yep. You're hardlining separation.
Yes, for sure.
And we all crave one of the basic human needs is connection.
Yeah.
So call bullshit on yourself. Pay real good attention so that you can shift that.
Yeah.
This is all in your power and in your control to shift any of these things. Like gratitude was hard for me at the beginning because it felt like just having to be, you should just be positive all the time, no matter what's going on. Like I'm supposed to be grateful that that person is screaming at me, or I'm supposed to be grateful that that person just slammed the door in my face, and I'm like, this is bullshit. But I can be grateful that I woke up in the morning. I can be grateful that I have clean water.
Right.
Again, perspective. I think especially here in the United States, we take a lot of crap for granted.
Way too much.
Way too much. And
Way
other
too much.
countries, like not even just other countries, just in your local town. I mean, you can drive around and see people that are a lot less fortunate than you, and
Yeah.
you're just taking it for granted.
Right.
So
I
really,
mean,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
you know, I've had people come up to me and be less than kind on so many different levels. And I had a choice. I can either go toe to toe, which I can, and usually I would,
She would used to, yeah.
or I can simply step back and, you know, kindly say, please stay out of my space. Or, you know, or I would say something like, which really, really would throw the person off, is like, what is going on for you that you think that how you're talking to me is okay? I want to know what's going on for you.
I've asked people that have come at me, like, are you okay? Because to come at me like that has to be like something must not be all right. Are you okay? Do you need something?
Because you can tell.
And they're like, what? You want to help me? And I'm
right. You can tell when it's not your shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, get curious. I can't tell you enough how getting curious solves a lot of different conflicts. Because you're not sitting in taking things personally. You know, you're more of the, okay, there's a story here, and I just came in the crossfire of it. It has nothing to do with me.
yes.
That kind of thing.
And understand that you create stories to support your feelings
Oh yeah.
constantly. You need to get in charge of your perspective and then look for stories that support that support everyone being unique. And it's so cool that we have so many varied human beings here so that we can learn and grow. Because it would be really freaking boring if we all believed the same crap.
Yeah. I mean, this the just the you and I being together and being culturally different posed a big struggle for me because how you grew up doing things versus how I grew up doing things,
Yeah.
they would go head to head.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about the the difference in how your mom raised you versus how I was raised. And I kind of molded all of them together so that it can make sense to me. But I sat in curiosity during those moments versus at times where I would get mad at you,
Yeah.
because I was taking it personally. When you would just simply say, hey, maybe this is a little bit better, or, this is how I used to do it. What do you think? Or anything like that. And I automatically at that point during the beginning, I would be like, what the fuck is she talking about?
Yep. Like,
Like,
no, that's
what?
not how it's done.
What? What do you mean? It's like, listen, and I did this. This is how I think. This is my way. This is what I know.
And it's worked just fine for me. It's
Yeah.
gotten me this far.
So who the heck are you to tell me to think differently or do differently? And let me tell you, it wasn't working for me.
And I love to blend things and bridge things and
I mean, those are just examples of how being super open about perspectives of others. And it's
I just
really
thought of something too. And perspectives are like culturally and family wise and religiously, just
Yeah.
things that you think that's the way it is. I was at I think it was a baby shower. I don't know, baby shower. I think it was a baby shower.
Yeah.
First of all, there's men there. There's a million kids there. It's like we've been there for 1 trillion hours. The cake comes out and I'm like, oh good, the cake's out. We can leave. And she's like,
What?
what? The cake's just out for dessert. This is just getting started. It'll go all day and all night. And I'm like, no, like, no.
Because in my culture, when the cake comes out, it's like, it's going to be on now.
Yeah.
The party's just beginning.
So she didn't even understand why I was saying that. She's just like, what are you talking about? So then we went to a baby shower from my family. And it was like, the cake starts to be served and everybody's getting their purse and their jacket and they're getting ready to go. And she's like,
I literally sat there and go,
"Whoa."
holy shit.
Mass exodus when the cake comes out, which is good because she hates baby showers. So now she's like, yeah, I kind of like the the cake comes out and everything's over. But it's just those weird cultural
Oh my
differences.
goodness,
Or the
it was-
first funeral I went to with you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I thought it was
Mind you, I warned her, too. I gave her a little bit of but
not this part.
yeah, not that part. I totally forgot about that part.
Everybody comes up and starts, they're in their Sunday best and they're grabbing shovels and they're starting to bury the person themselves.
Yeah.
And I was just like horrified. This was a long time ago, but
Yeah.
I was just like, what, why? It was almost, it was traumatizing to me for a bit.
But for us, it's an honor, It's an honor
And it
to,
makes sense to me now.
so.
But yeah, it's just so huge perspective shift the more that you understand and learn and experience other people and
Right.
other cultures and understand your own filter. The
Right.
better that you understand yourself and the more honest you are that I have a filter, you have a filter, we all have filters. So spiritually, if we're ever to do perspective shift spiritually, none of us would have the filters because coming down to this realm is where the filters are
Right.
applied and we relearn how to be our totally solid spiritual epic beings.
Yeah, for sure.
So if we just recognize I have a filter, you have a filter, so us communicating is never perfect or complete or full, but energetically it is. Like if you're approaching a conversation with somebody and you're in your center but you're open and you're respectful and you're honorable, people feel that.
Yeah. I mean, and like you were saying earlier, that's the beauty of all of us being different.
Keeps life interesting.
Yeah, because like it's been a ride learning your culture, and I've been in the States most of my life, but I've never like mixed my cultures together, and I'm for my culture, everything's like this. Like everything's together, everything's mixed together. For your culture, it's like this. Like sometimes what you guys say or do is just beyond my comprehension, but I don't go around saying that's wrong
Right.
because I've learned it differently.
And sometimes yours is like, it feels almost suffocating to me
Yeah.
because everything has to be done with this giant group of people that
Yeah.
maybe don't gel and aren't even kind to each other. And I'm like, why do I want to get in the middle of all of that? Like, I'd rather be over here.
Right. I mean, there's certain things that we do that was just like one thing that doesn't happen in your culture a lot is like when I go to back home where my parents are, I'll just drop into my bestie's house. I don't call her. I don't do any of that stuff. I just drop in. That's what we do. We drop in. You know, in your culture, we need a text or a phone call
Yeah.
that you're showing up.
We make plans. So we respect each other's
You know,
space.
we do that stuff, and we're doing the same thing. We're respecting space. It's just that in our culture, it's okay to go visit regardless. You know, and it's just like these little things that have shifted my perspective. You know, like versus when I'm, with my family versus when I'm with your family, like the difference in things. But yet there's a lot of similarities at the same time.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. So it's more awareness. Everything's about more awareness. And then
Make
you
it
have
fun.
more experiences, and life is, so much more fun.
make it fun.
So expand those paradigms, expand those dimensions,
Yeah.
and be open to shifting your perspective, because that's how life
Yeah.
is.
Stop
lived to
taking
the
it
fullest.
personally. Just be open.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right. Be
Be
kind.
kind. Peace.